The last chapter of my Revelation story concluded with me detailing that the core principle of my faith urges me to be good. Since then, I've had quite a few folks reach out to me and ask for more information on what it means to me to be good, so now I feel that it is appropriate a time as any to elaborate further. As an amateur author, I am intimately familiar with the concept of the hero's journey. As a refresher, the hero's journey is a literary structure whereby the subject, oftentimes an ordinary person, embarks on a grand journey, overcomes an array of obstacles, achieves a particular objective, and then usually lives a life that is much better as a result of their journey. In my experience, the more a story sticks to the form of that hero's journey, the more I find myself becoming engrossed with the characters involved. Not just myself, though. We, people, are fascinated with the archetype of the hero on a fundamental level. My toddler, when we wrestle, imagines himself as Spider-Man or the Hulk. When I was in middle school, what would Jesus do bracelets were all the rage. As a recruit, I strove to emulate my drill instructors. As a dad, I find myself consulting my memories of my own father to remember how he overcame one particular parenting challenge or another. Heck, you just have to turn on the news to see stories about a lauded firefighter after he rescued a boy from a burning building, or a random child who raised $100,000 to cover the medical expenses for their sick friend. Since we were little, we've mentally put ourselves in the shoes of our heroes and asked ourselves, what would I do in this particular situation? This only usually works for our heroes, though. A group of my friends were watching a news story about a man who drove a pickup truck through a crowd of people. At the end of the resulting car chase, a police officer bravely dove over the hood of his vehicle, weapon raised, to bodily drag the psychopathic pickup driver out of his vehicle to prevent more violence. In the subsequent conversation, most of my friends had posed forms of the question, I wonder if I would have had the guts to do what that cop did. But nobody put themselves in the shoes of that pickup driver. That particular chain of thought leaves me to believe that we, people, appreciate our heroes because they represent something that we would like to claim as our own. Distilling this, one can argue that our heroes make good decisions or otherwise act in a good manner. Given that my particular driving principle is to be good, I feel it important to really delve into this particular concept. And for this dive, I feel it important to reference that hero's journey that I started this episode with. Traditionally, a hero begins their story as an ordinary person. Luke Skywalker was a simple moisture farmer. Bilbo Baggins was a peaceful hobbit. Heck, even Jesus was born to a pair of common people in a barn. Generally, heroes are most relatable when their audience can actually understand where they're coming from because it is easier for us, normal people, to see ourselves in their shoes. A few years ago, I watched a movie with Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart. There's this one scene where Kevin asks Dwayne how he got so ripped. Dwayne casually responds that all he had to do was exercise for 6 hours each day, every day, for 20 years. Now, this isn't to say that The Rock isn't a hero. Far from it. But in that particular instance, his character is so far beyond average that it can get a bit hard for those of us who aren't built like Samoan deities to relate to the effort they had to go through to attain that level of performance. In the earlier example with the police officer and that villain pickup driver, the cop was instantly relatable because he was simply going about his day when catastrophe struck and he sprung into action. Crawling out of what could easily be a rabbit hole, the heroes in their journeys are humanized. From a literary perspective, their humble origins, and therefore relatability, are proven. This takes several forms. Sometimes, the hero is reluctant to embark on their quest, such as when Bilbo initially refused to join the dwarves on their journey to retake their kingdom. Sometimes, the hero encounters a mentor, or otherwise builds themselves up, such as when Luke meets and trains with Obi-Wan Kenobi, or when The Rock spent 20 years twisting barbells into pretzels. As I said, the forms vary, but in each journey, the hero is humanized to their audience. Not only is their origin relatable, but they don't become superpowered overnight. Jesus didn't start out his mortal life with an instant mastery over all things spiritual. He sought out people across the land to learn and better his understanding of his place in the world. Eventually, these heroes are tested. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. Arguably, what matters most here is the manner in which our heroes win and lose. My wife and I just finished season 4 of the anime Demon Slayer, a show that Sarah insists that our children will watch as soon as we deem them mature enough to understand what is going on. The main character, Tanjiro, is a charcoal burner who embarks on a journey to save his little sister from a curse that has turned her into a demon. Along his journey, he regularly goes toe-to-toe with vicious monsters. Full disclosure, the guy regularly gets the ever-loving crap kicked out of him, and more than once, he is saved from death by other people. Despite this, and this is the real reason why Sarah loves the show, Tanjiro maintains a positive attitude and drive to succeed regardless of the number of times he has to pick himself off the ground to do so. Returning to that earlier story, anyone can work a 9-to-5 job. Most people, if they put their minds to it, can become police officers. Very few people, however, have the drive to throw themselves into the path of a multi-ton vehicle in order to end a monstrous rampage. The hero's journey goes on from here, and I encourage the curious to take a personal dive into the subject. For the sake of my musings, however, I'm going to remain in place and flesh out my musings up to this point. Last episode, I spoke a bit about similar basic values between major faiths: service above self, respect for the community. Oftentimes, these beliefs form the basis for cultural success. As members of a particular culture, we individuals sometimes adopt these beliefs as our own and use them to judge the behavior of those both within and outside of our community. In the military, we venerate those men and women who take a bullet that was meant for another. Kyle Carpenter is a name known to every Marine because when a grenade rolled onto the roof he shared with a squad mate, without thinking, he threw himself between his buddy and that grenade and blocking a whole lot of shrapnel with his body. He saved the day. The man is a hero, and let me tell you, every Marine uses his example as a measure of themselves. If I was faced with the same scenario, would I have the guts to do what he did? Oftentimes, our veneration for heroic behavior is done on an unconscious level. I'm reading a book right now by David Weber. This last chapter, a character was introduced. This guy is a military officer in a formerly Soviet state. During his introduction, it was made known that his career had been stonewalled because when he was a junior officer, he exposed a little too much corruption within the higher ranks of command. Instantly, I knew this to be one of the good guys because he does the right thing even when that thing will likely carry dire consequences. That's really what it's all about. To me, to be good is more than simply attending a religious service once a week or trying not to swear. To really be good is to exemplify the virtues that one lives by, to have the courage in the face of adversity, to resist taking the easy way out, even when you really want to do right by those around you, and to strive to set an example for others to follow. Look, you're going to stumble. Tanjiro has had more broken bones than I can feel comfortable with. Luke Skywalker picked a fight with Darth Vader and temporarily lost his ability to count on his right hand. He can attest. Pretty much every person who has ever said they were going on a diet can attest that they're going to stumble. Stumbling is a part of life. Stumbling is also part of every hero's journey. What separates, however, the heroes from those ordinary folks who do not have their own story is that heroes get back up and try again until they get it right. Heroes live their lives in such a way that people around them notice. Heroes inspire and are emulated for that good that they exemplify. Most importantly, heroes aren't concerned with scope. You don't need to be as ripped as The Rock to inspire someone to endure through hardship. You don't need to be as perfect as Jesus to inspire someone to resist a temptation. You don't need Harry Potter's magic or Luke's force to show others that they can change the world for the better. You just need to be good and live your own hero's journey. Sounds doable, right?